Last week I had a really popular and talented musician doing the music for this. I have him every week. Of course, Jackson Cloud is always with us, but last week I had Clay Rose of the Gasoline Lollipops. He's a wonderful artist, a little bit outside of my skill set and ability range. But he made a beautiful fucking show for us. And today we don't have that. Welcome to the show. This is Boulder County Tonight. If this is your first time watching the show, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. You should really start over. Because maybe you're a big fan of our guest. No spoilers. I mean, I told you who the guest is, but we haven't said it yet in the show. Whatever. But maybe you're just a big fan. Maybe that's it. This is Boulder County Tonight. We're kind of like investigating the local elections to some extent. If you're watching this when it airs on Longmont Public Media, go to bed, Grandma. You left the TV on. What else is new in the world? I don't have a cast on anymore, right? And this is a really important thing for my personality. Look what I can almost do. I can almost get there. We want it so bad. Don't worry, we'll get there. There's some national level news, I suppose, happening. Remember those people that sort of run the government who kind of all year have been telling you to like go back to work or whatever and be on Team America and do your job? Well, those motherfuckers ain't been doing their jobs or showing up to work a lot of times. They're called senators and congresspeople, and basically to an individual, they're all assholes. So they are, of course, threatening to shut down the government. And this has like sort of become a tradition for us in America. We like to threaten to shut down the government. It gives the politicians, of course, an excuse to do what they do best. And the Republicans, of course, what do they do best? They obstruct every single thing the Democrats ever do, should they ever get in power. And what do the corporate Democrats do? They do a thing called posture, give in. That's what they do. So everybody gets a chance to do that about the debt ceiling, see? Because the Republicans kind of play this abusive boyfriend kind of like thing where it's like, I love America so much, I'm going to put a gun in its face every few years and threaten to fucking kill it if I don't get my way, right? And then the corporate Democrats are sort of like your gaslighting friend that's like, it's really your fault. You really just shouldn't make him so mad or whatever. That's what's happening in our national level politics. And for them, it's going very well. They just signed a new deal to like get along or whatever again. How did Uncle Joe get us out of this, you might ask? Oh, good question. Well, he did, of course, the corporate Democrat strategy of like peel away the things you really weren't going to try and pass that hard anyway and sign what the Republicans would agree with because there's one big daddy for both groups, and it's called billionaires. Okay. So, I don't know, who are like some main players in this? It is sort of like a bad TV show lately. Have you noticed? I have. I'm sort of bothered by it, of course. But it seems like the TV show's getting too bad because like one of the main Democrats standing on the neck of the public right now, not willing to pass the shit, is he's got a name that is like, it's like it's from a Saturday Night Live sketch. It's like it's a fucking fake name. Let me tease this for just a little longer. If you were naming some asshole character who like maybe lip service to the working class of America, but really was one of the rich people working for the other rich people asshole, what would you name that guy? His name's Joe Manchin. Real name. I don't think that's a stage name. Manchin. Joe fucking Manchin is going to help you? Fuck. Of course not. He's like one of the main Democrats not letting the shit. When you see the government maybe shutting down, think mansion. Everybody living in a mansion's one of our problems. Joe Manchin. I actually had a friend some years ago named Levi Smith. Now his name was Smith because his ancestors made their money from smithing. And so whatever, years and years down the line, Smith is the last name. What the fuck did Joe's family do? You know what I'm saying? Because it's not help the middle class, okay? If your last name is fucking Mansion, it's not like you were building them, right? You know what I'm fucking saying? All right, guy's name is Joe Manchin. My last name is Epler, and that's because my ancestors made their money from Eppeling. Eppeling? Maybe they were very famous Eplers, perhaps, but they were famous for Eppeling, if anything. So I talk a lot about sort of the relationship between the billionaire class here in America and the people that do the paperwork underneath them to make sure they stay billionaires. Because you're maybe sitting thinking like, oh my God, you know, they must be fighting over something really important or whatever, that they won't make this deal to continue the government or whatever. No, they don't want to build you roads, motherfucker. That's what it is. They don't want to build you a road until somebody gets a tax credit. That's how this is working. So you're like, oh my God, how do billionaires become billionaires? Oh, from shitty politicians not interested in the future. Oh my God, why wouldn't a politician be interested in the future? This is kind of a numbers question. And I'm no math doctor, but I looked it up the other day, and a surprising number of senators and congresspeople are over 80 years old. Now, how the fuck can you possibly care about how the future goes if you're not going to goddamn be there, right? You're not going to be there. I don't really believe you're invested, right? So, of course, they're fucking us all the time now to make money now, not worrying about climate change or the workforce or housing, anything that happens in the future. They're not concerned. They're not asking those questions. You know what these motherfuckers ask about the future? They're 80 years old. Ready for this joke? Would you like to know what these 80-year-olds are asking about the future? One of their main questions? Is it soup time? Is it fucking soup time? You old fucks, get out of there. I'm going to be talking about local elections soon. Don't worry about that. This theory doesn't work locally. It is different. National level, different level problem. We like our old people in Longmont. Okay, we got lots of nice people. And nobody running for city council is too old. Okay, so don't fucking bite my dick, all right? But I do think if you're 80 fucking years old, you ought not be in charge of the country. I'm sure you're wonderful. You know what I mean? And Matt Locke was a great lawyer. You know what I'm saying? But also, fuck you guys. You know, it's just, you've had your fun. Time to sort of move along. And here's how I know people my age are old enough to run politics. It's because, do you remember that show, that 70s show? It came out in the 90s. And it was a great show. And to me, growing up, it was like, oh my God, back in the 70s, what a romantic time it must have been so long ago, or whatever. You know what they're about to produce? A new show. Not a joke. That 90s show. When they start making nostalgic TV shows about the time you grew up in, it's okay to start running politics, okay? Just a note. But, okay, let's some good news. Pandemic news. I have good news in the pandemic world. Ready? Remember how we're in a pandemic? It's still happening. Good news. We all put our tax dollars together and collectively funded a new cure to be made for COVID-19. Isn't that amazing? We worked together through the government, God help us, through the government, put our money together and funded a new drug that will now be produced. Good for you. Let's wait for a second and really relish that, because there's the second half to my joke. Ready? Oh, no, not yet. Oh, we did it. Good for us. We're all gods creating this reality together, so of course we should cure our diseases. And now about that second half of that joke I mentioned earlier. There's, of course, the pharmaceutical company that got that funding to do the research, a drug you paid to make. They're going to be selling it, of course, on the market. And, of course, they're a business, so they're going to have to mark it up. Now, I believe that's fair, okay? I think they should be able to mark it up just a little bit, right? Because, whatever, they're going to be putting real work in. They're a business. They shared in the labor that it was to fucking make this drug. Sure, now we paid for it, but they should get to, make some Skrilla or what the fuck ever, right? So, you're thinking, of course, when I make shit, I mark it up. I'm a business person, right? Now I can mark shit up a couple 100%. And like, that's me making money in my business, a couple 100%. You can make some money on what you're making or whatever. So like, whatever, that would be a reasonable thing. I don't think anybody would necessarily begrudge them that, right? A few 100% even, maybe, who knows? Would you be pissed if it were 400% markup for a product you paid to make that saves lives? Maybe your life, person who paid to make the drug, maybe save your life. Would you be pissed if it were like 400 times what it cost, or at 400% increase? You'd be pissed maybe. But don't worry, it's not 400% markup. It's fucking 4,000%. These motherfuckers, let me just fucking tell you one more time how they're gonna spit on it and put it in. 4,000% markup. Do you know why? It's because of this for you. Who's on your fucking side after all? The government. Here's another good example of maybe this. Remember when the government sent you that $1,200 check and we had to like beg them for it? The bill that it took to make that, do you know how many pages it was? I happen to. It was over 5,000 pages. It was almost 6,000 pages bill to send you a $1,200 check. They also just did a new deal for Jeff Bezos. He's going to make billions off of it, and we're going to give him those billions. How many pages? 2 fucking pages. Look it up. Look it up. 2 fucking pages. Billionaire wants more billions? 2 pages. Fuck you, you're starving? $1,200, and we'll make you feel like shit about it. That's what's happening at your government. Okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. We basically abhor these people. Bernie Sanders aside. Okay, listen. Still on Team Bernie Sanders over here. You know what I'm saying? He's not like Joe Manchin. Okay, so when I say fuck the corporate Democrats, and you'll hear me say that a lot, you know, I'm thinking of people like the Clintons, or people like that are in power now. The Clintons, of course, murderers, whatever. Sorry about you, murderers and fucking thieves. It is what it is. Who killed Epstein? Well, we don't necessarily know. One of the previous presidents, definitely not Obama. Just a note. So that was supposed to be the good news. Fuck. We had the drug. That was the good news. That's the good news. Here's some more good news. Here's some more good news. You are an overpowered and a universally energized God thing. And this whole thing is actually a result of your own inner world, your own perception, your own expectations. And should you change those things, you will phase into a new reality that matches your inner world. I know, because I do it too. We're all in this middle place. You are a God. So that's the good news too. But you may die from COVID, and the government's not going to help you at all. All right. But here's some good news. Better good news. Well, this is going to be some more high-quality good news. And this is going to lead more into like the politics of the local world. Local Longmont politics, okay? We have an election going on. Perhaps you've noticed in the fucking series about the election. That's actually what we're doing here. We have a local election happening. City council, mayor. See previous episodes. And in Longmont news, like, that election's sort of going okay, but we're sort of entering into this more like, I don't know, where people want to turn up the temperature. They want to sort of start talking shit about each other. They want to sort of like poison the community against each other. Some high school level bullshit sometimes. Now, we don't approve that shit on this show, and you won't hear us talking shit about other candidates. That's not really what we're here for. But I will have you know that that's something that's really happening in town, and I want you to all guard your hearts and minds. Because, like, in real life, all of these people are trying to help. They're not like the fucking assholes that I was talking about earlier in the segment at the national level. That's not who we're dealing with locally. These are our neighbors. They have a diverse set of ideas you may agree with or disagree with, but they're not actually trying to fuck you. They're actually trying to help. Now, there's room for people to be wrong about how to help, okay? And to be fair, there are candidates in this election that I'm not going to have on. That's just how that is. And whatever. Everybody was invited. We didn't have room for everybody that even wanted to be on because we're all doing a weekly show. I will be revealing sort of like who I'm going to vote for in the next week. And I've always done a voter's guide for our community ever since I've come here in 2009. And that was more to kind of like, I don't know, provide sort of the, I don't know, ground level artist, entrepreneur opinion about who would be helpful. If you like the art scene in Longmont, I've always tried to give good advice about like, this person has good news to help us. This person seems like they understand how to drive business into our blah blah. And I'm gonna fucking do that. But what I'm not gonna say is, don't vote for this motherfucker, or it's this stupid dummy, or whatever like that. It'll be more like, I like this, that's how my little dots are gonna go, okay? We're gonna get to that in the next episode. There, those are all the real thoughts I had starting out the show here. Now we have a guest for the show who's already on Longmont City Council, which, I mean, as we've seen, seems like sort of an underappreciated and, yes, tedious job. We'll talk to this person about like how that seems to be going. Right now, Polly Christensen, please join me in my little yellow chairs and near my miniature ficus.
And it's so lively.
And lush. I'm a great gardener. Don't tell me I can't garden. We actually, when we started this show, a lot of the complaints were like, and there, of course, were complaints. This is one of my products. People complain. They were like, well, God, his fucking ficus, you know, they need some kind of foliage on the show. You know, like,
really?
Like this beautiful curtain wasn't enough setting for you and our lovely, vibrant chairs. No, but I added this tiny ficus. I feel like it adds a little ambiance to the audience. And it also, whenever you see this tiny ficus, think this. Because like, I don't actually want to hear any more of your thoughts. Ah! And we certainly aren't going to be adding any more fici to the show. We're done adding fici. Polly, welcome to the show.
Make it bigger.
I keep watering it.
Yeah, we keep watering. Thank you.
Polly, welcome. And before we talk about anything, let me just say thank you for being on City Council. You know,
And my genuine pleasure and honor. It's really been illuminating.
interesting. Well, I have questions about that. And we always want to thank our public servants because, like, as we've discovered talking to people in this show, it's sort of a fucking shitty job. And, like, people got to, like, want this job. It's not, there's not enough power for narcissists to really chase it down.
Yeah.
There's not enough money for greedy motherfuckers to chase it down. You kind of got to be in it for the right reasons in Longmont anyway. So tell me this about your service on City Council so far. We talk about how shitty that job is, how expensive emotionally it is. What policies have you been involved with supporting that have made that worth it for you?
Well, I spent 8 years trying to get us an affordable housing ordinance, and we have one. It is not what I would like. It's been very distorted and watered down, but it's a start. I'm very proud of that. I fought for that more than anyone. I fought very hard for that. And I fought because that's the most basic thing a human being needs, is a roof over their head. Without that, nothing else is possible. So it's not just about affordable housing. It's about the whole spectrum, from people who are leaving, living in their cars or sleeping under a bush, to people who have plenty of money and have all kinds of choices. Most of the people in Longmont are really hard-pressed. 50% of the people in Boulder County can't afford where they're living now.
Yeah.
And are at constant risk and of losing their home, and the stress of constant poverty and constant insecurity makes people sick.
Yeah.
We have 400 kids in the St. Vrain school system who are homeless. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
400 children in our school system locally
Yes.
are homeless.
Yeah. There's a point in time survey done in every January and it tries to find as many homeless people as possible, which is not very easy.
Yeah.
But they only count people over the age of 18. Did you know that?
No, of course, no, I didn't know that.
No, they don't count any teenagers unless they're over 18. They don't count children.
And is that because
All
it's
those
too
people-
depressing to know?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But that means that the actual number of people who are homeless in the United States is considerably larger, and the children living with that stress of trying to live in a car and disguise it from their friends, having no place to shower, no place to wash, no place to actually eat or do anything, is horrendous. And yet we have the nerve to talk about,
tax breaks for billionaires.
yes. So that's one thing. I also I also made marijuana legal in the city, not because I smoke a lot of dope, but because it's been here. It's
Yeah.
been here since I was going to the University of Colorado. We came to Long,
It's part of our Colorado
it just
culture.
wasn't taxed, and we weren't making any money off of it. So
Yeah.
now we're making at least $600,000 a year. You're welcome, Longmont. So
That's nice.
Yeah.
I wish, honestly, I think the taxes are even looking at going up over the next 5 years on marijuana. They're looking at raising it to, I think, 25%,
yeah, that's crazy.
which is fucking
That's
insane.
not-
What's the alcohol tax, you might be asking? I believe it's about 3%.
Yeah, it's wrong what they're doing. But I looked at what Aurora had done, and they legalized marijuana, and they used the tax on it to fund homeless shelters, or to fund housing. And that's what I wanted to do, is have the entire fund go to housing.
But people get so greedy when they smell that pile of money coming.
Yeah, so 50% of it is for housing, and the other 50% is school development.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Those are noble things to have done and be proud of.
yes, they are. I fought metro districts, residential metro districts, because they are a very bad idea. They are a huge burden to homeowners, and they have the ability to tax and bond. They are a third branch of state government, but there's no oversight with them anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
DOLA keeps their records, but 40% of them don't even file the records. DOLA has no ability to enforce or penalize anything, so they're a third branch of government that has no oversight.
That's
But
our
they have
thing.
the ability to tax and bond without people being there, because they decide these things before anybody becomes a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that. They also have the ability to declare eminent domain. They're a private company that has the ability to declare eminent domain.
Let's drill down into that just a bit if we
That's
can.
frightening.
It's frightening, but let's maybe try and put that in some other language so that people that don't know what eminent domain is and why you wouldn't want a fucking private company in charge of it. Can you kind of capsulize that for us?
Well, they can say, I think this land should be mine. That's basically it.
Yeah, that is basically it. They basically just be like, not here, you. This is my space.
Recently, a Weld County residential metro district tried to claim a reservoir and some land around it for their own, and it was actually in Boulder County, and Boulder County said, I don't think so, so they had a big lawsuit, and the residential metro district lost, which was good.
Yeah, that's a nice change.
Yeah, it's rare, so.
Yeah, I
they're
feel like we get taken
incredibly
advantage of a lot.
powerful, and there's no control over them. And no matter what people say, once they are established, no one checks on them. We have one metro district left in this city. And anyway,
That seems like a classically bad deal for us, the citizens.
it is.
And it sort of reminds me,
It's a classically lucrative deal for them because they have, as one of their multiple LLCs, they also are attached to a bonding company, which is called Land Secured Bonds, and they make billions of dollars off of it. And it's a problem all over the country, but it's very difficult to fight because they will throw millions of dollars into defeating any politician who does it. And they'll also do all kinds of very unpleasant things to you if you oppose them. So, anyway, what else have we done?
I think that is a troubling idea, right? But it reminds me of another situation we're in the city that I'd like to kind of pivot to, if you don't mind.
No.
We're getting so fucked over by this train deal, this fast track thing. We got so into it, we put so much goddamn cash in it, and there is no train coming. They ran a train on us, dummies.
Well, okay. I don't really want to get a long discussion about this because
Okay.
you can imagine it is horrendously complicated.
It is, of course,
So,
complicated.
RTD stands for the Regional Transportation District. It is a special district. Now, special districts in Colorado started when they were just minors, and like there were 10 people over here and 5 people over there, and there was 20 miles between them, and they had no way to get anything like roads or fire departments or anything. So they would get together, and they had no commercial base. So it was a way for people to get together and raise some money in a larger area that wasn't their municipality. It was a good idea in
Yeah.
the 1800s. It's gotten way, way different because we have commercial bases. We don't need to do this anymore. But there are times when it works very well, like the arts district that for Denver Regional Metro District. That's how we fund the Denver Art Museum, the Denver History Museum, the Longmont Museum, all kinds of things like that. That works if it's not controlled by politicians. If RTD were run by the engineers, it would work. But because it's run by so many powerful groups, particularly Denver, they were supposed to have built out everything equally. That's what we voted on. They used the Bush-Cheney meltdown to say, oh, we can't do this right now. We're going to have to put that off for a while. Well, then they never got back to it. And now they say, well, the money's all gone. Well, that's unacceptable. We keep paying you, and you keep doing nothing.
Yeah.
However, we now have a governor who actually is thinking about, in the 70s, we were talking, because you're a child. But, you know,
Well, I'm grown as
I am
man.
one of those old people that you want to get rid of. Yes, I know. But I'm going.
You seem delightful. And let me also say,
No,
when
I
I
agree
generalize
with
about the
you.
boomers, I don't mean it to the individuals. I know a lot of great individuals, but as a group, over time, I'm afraid the tendencies have been negative for society.
Well, that could be another show.
Of course, and it
But
will
anyway, anyway, there are plenty of really great younger people coming along. And by younger, I mean 40-year-olds.
be. Sure.
Anyway, we talked about going from Utah to Kansas, from New Mexico to Wyoming in the 70s. We
Yeah.
didn't do anything about it.
Right.
Now that land, we can't get that land. It's too expensive.
Right.
We have no way to own that land, and we have never put any money into it. Colorado's whole transportation system and roads and all that, it's a mess because we've been propagandized to believe taxes are evil. You shouldn't pay another nickel.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how do you think you're going to pay for it? It's like you don't just move into a house and assume you'll never pay another nickel.
Right.
It's a total money sink all the time.
Yeah. Well.
But anyway, so we have a governor who actually does want to run something from Pueblo up to Fort Collins. And it should also be run east to west as well. Because we can't continue to build more roads. We have to have some kind of public transportation that moves people around. This is what, we didn't used to have the density for it. We do now. Go to any other place in the country and in the world, they have good transportation systems.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've ridden them, I've ridden them.
And
We
there
just
seem to be a
don't
lot
wanna
of good
do it.
answers to this problem, but also a lot of like kind of nonsensical answers I hear in the public discourse or whatever.
But there are things that are starting to happen now because of POLIS and the idea of, to me, of using I-25
Yes.
as a natural corridor.
Yeah.
But there are several different plans. You know, if you have that, the way most of these systems work in Europe and in Australia and Japan, where I've been to all those places, they have functioning public transportation. You have main lines, and then you have buses coming off of them to different places. So I-25 is natural, I-70 is natural.
Yeah.
And then have buses that go off of them. in 1880, there was one of the leaders of the Northern Arapaho was able to come down from Cheyenne to Longmont to Denver on the train. 1880.
Yeah.
We can't do that now. It's
No,
ridiculous.
it's like they want everybody to own a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, even if they're electrified, that won't cut it, because we're still gonna be building roads and fueling them with electricity. 40% of our electricity right now comes from coal. So that's not, that will change, but, right now, that's not the solution to electrify the cars. That is a solution. But they are talking with Amtrak right now. And
That's
they
an
are
issue
talking
we haven't
with
discussed
BNS,
much.
And they have been like the FAA, they are the FRR, Federal Rail something other. Sorry. And they're not interested in talking to us. You have to get the governor to talk to them. Then they might be interested. We have the FAA in town and they won't talk to anybody in city council. Oh, no.
That's interesting.
You live here.
You know,
Can
we
you
all live
talk
under
to
the
me?
sky, you know.
Come on,
We should
city
talk.
council, just talk to me. No, we'll get back to you someday.
Well, thank you for humoring me broaching that topic. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But so it is difficult, and it is a total mess. And I went down and testified for RTD along with Joan Peck and Brian Bagley, and I said to the RTD people, most Longmont people disagree about a lot of things. There's one thing they agree on, that's that we hate RTD. You need to give us something. You keep taking away stuff.
I love it when the community comes together.
Well, that is the one thing we agree on, don't we? I mean, but it's because they have, I know Judy Lubell, who used to be our RTD director, and, she said, I go down there, they just treat me like I'm invisible. Well, each person, just like on council, each person is supposed to be equal in respect and in power. Good luck with that. So.
I appreciate your thoughts.
So it is a problem of politicians running it instead of engineers. Engineers know how to do this,
We're fucking lousy with engineers in this community, if you haven't known. If you lift up a rock in Boulder County, there are like 2 engineers and a yoga teacher under there. You know what I mean? And somebody who went to Naropa. That's what's under each rock in Boulder County. You have been on city council during an historic, really challenging time, obviously. COVID. I'm talking about the pandemic now.
Oh, well.
Yes, of
started
course.
off in the flood.
Right.
So none of this is anything that any of us expected. Certainly I didn't.
Yeah.
I started off in a flood. I'm leaving in a pandemic.
Do you feel like you have bad luck?
Of course, I don't know.
We had like a 100-year flood and then like a fucking 100-year pandemic. This is like some badass luck.
Well, that is life. We can start off with the best of plans, but whatever happens, and you cope with it,
So,
And I think, to say something in terms of Longmont, we have an incredible staff at the city government. I never appreciated that or knew anything about it. And they have worked with FEMA, they've worked with the state, they've worked with the county to rebuild the river corridor, and we mostly have that rebuilt except for one little stretch. And that's amazing in 8 years.
yeah.
And we've also done the same thing, they have also done the same thing in regard to COVID. We get weekly updates, whether people want to hear them or not. Anybody who can turn into city council will get weekly updates on that, and weekly updates from the county health department. And, that's what government at its best does, is take care of people who live there. That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
I hate that sounds like such a radical concept
Yeah,
now
it is.
in politics, to actually take care of people. But I do think people in our community are geared that way. And that's why I try and speak highly.
We're supposed to do what no one else will do.
Yeah.
We've left housing up to the public-private partnership system since 1971.
That doesn't seem to be going great at this point.
No, it's not going great. It was going just fine before that, when government built public housing. So if we keep doing that, it's gonna be exactly the same. It's not gonna go well.
So, yes, I agree with that. Here's a question. You've been on council through this very troubling, a few troubling, terrible times historically. I mean, these stories are going to be, they're part of history now.
Yeah.
And you were one of the people at the helm in our community. Kept us moving forward. Thank you very much. Now you're going into more time in public service, more time on council. Yes? You're not gonna come back ever again?
3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
I'm term limited
Uh-huh.
because people decided that rather than just vote someone out, they were gonna end their stuff, end their term after a certain number of years, which sometimes that's good, but mostly you could just vote them out.
Yeah.
The people that benefits is the people with money, because they can afford to keep running campaigns. Most of us can't, so.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that there are term limits. I think that ought to be true top to bottom in our government and on the Supreme Court as well.
I disagree, although Supreme Court, really.
Yeah, hell yeah, I think term limits.
75, just stop.
Dog, if you're in your 80s being like, oh, here's like something about the internet that I'll make a law about, you should have to know your own goddamn Google password, old motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever, we love people, but like these motherfuckers on that particular group, that is the worst. We can't be waiting for people to like go insane and die when there are judges at the national level. You know what I'm saying? How many 80-year-olds do you really like want that person making national level decisions? I'm impressed how bad it is.
Some of them I do. Ruth
Yeah,
Bader
of course.
Ginsburg, for instance.
I guess.
But
like, boy, we sure have a lot of great people in this country, and like,
yeah, we do.
you know, I think a lifetime appointment is totally poisonous. But whatever.
I do too. I think a lifetime appointment. When they made that, a lifetime was like 40.
Right.
So,
What about the first time we elect an android? You know what I mean? That person lives forever. You know what I mean? We're going to have to address it eventually.
That's not going to be good.
I think it
I'm
would
not
be.
looking forward to the android thing.
Oh boy. Yeah, look, I have big thoughts about that.
We're just going to be their pets. I mean, they can
Yes.
outshine us at everything.
That they'll be gods, but in a different way than you are, my friend. But whatever.
In a way we cannot imagine.
In a way that we cannot imagine. That's right.
But maybe I would be happy being one of their cats or something.
You know what I'm
Just
saying?
lounge around all day and say, feed me, feed me, feed me.
I had a cat once, and that cat had a great life. But also, that cat was 100% my prisoner.
Yeah, right.
It's a complicated relationship.
It is.
Going forward in our city,
Yeah.
for council people, what are you most worried that the ball will get dropped or the challenge will be too complicated? What's like the big challenge that you see on our horizon for these next people coming into office?
Well, I see that the same people, the same wealthy elite who've always run the city will continue, who've always run it behind the scenes and had their little candidates, and I see that they're going to take over again, and we will have no affordable housing. It'll all be attainable workforce housing. And we will have metro districts back in the city, which balkanizes the government. I mean, it's already bad enough with HOA sort of arrangements where you can say that you can allow housing, ADUs everywhere, but an HOA will forbid it.
Yeah.
And that's a private contract, so you can't interfere with that. So the truth is that they're all over in the places like Old Town, both sides, that don't have HOAs.
Yeah.
So
I think there should be attainable housing and affordable housing, but like, boy, pretending like just attainable housing is the answer is, I think, the wrong approach.
well, because it's middle class housing, and that's good. We need everything to be something that people can afford. But unless we work on the people who are at the most risk, we will never get out of homelessness and people constantly being stressed out by their finances, and because their most expensive finance is their home.
Yeah, of course, right?
And so you have to start at the bottom, and to proclaim workforce housing, which is a term come up by the real estate industry, and so is attainable housing.
Boy,
They
that
don't actually
workforce
have a
housing sounds like the
legal-
darkness.
Well, they don't include the actual workforce. Everyone who has a job is in the workforce, but they only are talking about middle-class people who work.
Mm-hmm.
That's insulting.
I agree.
And attainable housing means nothing legally. It's supposed to be people who make 80 to 120% of the AMI, but that's not a legal definition. Affordable housing has a legal definition by the Housing and Urban Development Department, and that is that you don't pay more than 30% of your income before tax for housing. So think about
Right.
that.
I thought the definition
30%.
difference was affordable housing is subsidized by the government and attainable housing is just supposed to be something a normal dude can afford, which I see
it isn't.
there's no real definition there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still, in a sense, subsidized because in our affordable housing ordinance, which was half demanded by developers and the real estate industry and the people at LEDP, we have what's called middle-tier housing, meaning attainable housing, 80 to 120%. And that's segregated into 3 sections, and only one of them actually has to have affordable housing. The other 2 have lower and lower percentages. So, guess who's building what? They're building what they can get away with no affordable housing.
Of
So
course.
we are actually subsidizing middle-class housing, which is not what we should be doing. We need more people to be in home ownership.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to get out of poverty.
It's been
And
such a
have something
tricky
to give to
time.
your kid. People forget that when you have a home, you are not subject to a landlord, but you can also use that home to get a 4% loan to fix your furnace or to buy a car, instead of having to pay the 12% or more that you're paying with your credit card. So your home is
Right.
worth so much more than just a home that you live in. It also allows you to have a great deal more financial gain.
Right. I feel like a lot of our citizens are, of course, renters, and they are renting these apartments.
A bigger and bigger portion.
Yes, because, in my opinion, the reason is somehow the system is built to where they can look at your financial life and say, you can't pay, let's say, a $1,000 a month mortgage, so we won't give you a home loan. Go back to paying $1,600 a month for rent.
Exactly.
What the fuck? What the fuck? You know, it's very frustrating because, like, yeah, and then to get into a rental apartment, let's say that is $1,600 a month. Oh, you've got to pay the down payment or whatever. You got to fucking put a month in first, so you're actually paying it twice to even get in the goddamn door. I don't know anybody that makes that kind of money.
And many places say you have to have 5 times the monthly rent in order to get in here. You have
That's
to be
insane.
making that. Nobody makes that.
That's fucking insane. If I'm making $8,000 a month, I'm not getting an apartment,
You don't need the
motherfuckers.
rent. I know.
What world are we in? You know what world we're actually in? We're in the world of take advantage of people who are weak or disadvantaged. It's bullying at an economic level.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's a horrible, and people say, well, then they can save up. They'll never be able to save up because they can't even make rent at the end of it.
Save up where? While they live on the fucking street? Save up to move into an apartment? Well, let me tell you about living on the street. Oh, if you're doing it in Boulder, the police show up and take your blanket and then politely, at gunpoint, ask you to stop existing because they don't deal with homeless people there. They got maybe like less than 100 beds, we think. Do I know that? I think it's less than 100 beds for homeless people. And apparently there's 400 fucking kids that are homeless in our community. Boy, it's funny how we don't ever hear that number.
Right.
You know? It's funny how all these, remember when I was a kid, the thing I kept hearing, I grew up in Texas, and we were all compassionate conservatives. And you know what that meant? That meant like we smiled and called you sweetheart when we stood on your fucking neck. You know what I mean? That's what's happening. It's so dark. I appreciate you coming on this show and talking with me. What are you going to do now? Are you going to you're not going to be on city council? Goddamn. Are you going to take a bubble bath every Tuesday night now?
Yes.
Fuck yeah, right? Take yourself a bubble bath.
Bottle of wine.
That's it, babe. No, let's talk wine for just a second. What kind of wine are you into?
Well,
Just red wine? You like a nice Malbec? You Cab Sav girl? What you up to?
I do not have a refined palate.
Perfect date for me then.
But I like Pinot Noir. I like
Oh, yeah.
Neuron. I like Malbec.
Okay. Oh, I like those as well.
But I'll drink, when I go to somebody's house, I have a friend who only drinks white wine, and she drinks it with an ice cube. But that's okay. I forgive her.
Illegal. If I'm elected mayor, that shit's illegal.
I love her. She's nice.
No, the police are kicking in your door with a no-knock warrant about this.
When I go to her house, I'm happy to drink Chardonnay with an ice cube.
No, we're going to be listening through your Amazon devices, and when your glass lifts, if we hear it clinking, we're coming for you.
What I think I'm going to do is, the other day, somebody asked me that question. I said, I'm going to get in my car with a thermos of coffee and a bag of apples and head for Nebraska. And she said, I'd go to Paris. And I said, I'd go to Paris too if I had to work for city council. For the
Well,
last
yeah, I'd
year.
go to Paris.
You can barely afford to go to Nebraska.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I am a person of simple tastes, and that's just fine. I come from a long line of very cheap farmers and people of modest means who are happy to be that.
Those are my people as well, friend. Oh, but bath, though. You deserve a bath after all the work you did or whatever.
Yeah, I do take baths.
That bubble bath shit. You do that Dr. Teal's, not a sponsor, that Dr. Teal's bubble shit.
Dr. Teal's at home.
That avocado one. It makes you so soft. It made me so soft in my bath, I almost dissolved. I became like a loose blanket in the bath.
This is what happens when you get old.
Oh, okay.
You get soft.
Oh. In like a sweet way?
Because your collagen disappears. That's why your skin turns into this really weird, awful thing that you can't believe.
But relaxing in a bath, perhaps.
I don't know.
Here's my opinion about bath. You got to have the
Water shower
salt.
kind of person.
Got to have the salt. Got to have the bubbles. If you're not doing that, I don't think I approve of your bath. But as far as wine goes for the bath, red wine's not really your answer. That's my opinion. A nice chilled Prosecco turns out to be perfect. Little bubbly white thing. Perfect.
Yeah.
Just a note. We care about you. We want you to have a good life. You served us. Take a bath.
I could have Veuve Clicquot. I like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on my little show.
It's been my pleasure.
Do you have any final thoughts or something you'd like to point out about the upcoming election or anything on that level? You're welcome to. Here's a little microphone.
I would urge people to vote for the people that you think actually represent you and not the special interests of the town, because you're going to be with them for several years, and they have the power to do a lot of harm to the city or a lot of good for the city. So pick the people who represent you.
Yeah.
And Longmont will continue to be the quirky and kind of lovable place it is.
And as we've seen on this show, people are cool. They're meetable. Yeah, that's Polly, please. We love it. And we have, these people are all meetable. They're in our community. You can run into them. They'd be happy to chat with you, frankly, Unless you're an asshole, and then stay home. Stay home. No bath. Stay home. No bath.
I always run into people when it's laundry day and at the supermarket, and I'm looking like I.
That's perfect. That's the perfect time. But don't bother me at the grocery store. I'm probably very high, unwilling to conversate, maybe. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you very much for watching the show. And, we'll just whatever. See you the next time. Whatever. Relax.